On this episode of the In the Hunt podcast, Topher is sick as a dog, but that is not stopping him from talking about the New England Patriots. We get 15 minutes into this show before I'm joined by our good old buddy Houtz to wrap it up, get you ready for everything you know against the Patriots. And by the way, little humble brag, listen to what I say about Ndamukong Suh because he had a couple bad balls last night. Let's get on with the show. It is that time of the year. It is that time of the year. Not only is it Patriots week here on In the Hunt podcast, we are going to New England. I'm already in New England. Topher's sick as a dog. He's going to do his best Cameron Wake to get us through this. Topher, I'm 3-0 in predictions this year while you're 2-1. How are you feeling?
I feel like a peach. I'm my voice might not show it or say it, but I am pumped up for Sunday. Yeah, no, I am pumped up for Sunday. Like, think about it. We finally got the Dolphins going 3-0 into New England. The Patriots look vulnerable as hell, and we still think they're gonna lose.
It's horrible, and
it's the worst feeling ever. Is how I feel right now.
Has nothing to do with being sick, but everyone's going around saying this is a huge game for the Dolphins. It's a must-win for the Dolphins, and I want to disagree. It's a huge game for the Patriots. The Patriots are the team that's 1-2. They can't lose this game. Everyone's saying New England needs to make it at this month 2-2. That is their goal, and it's the Dolphins' job. They don't lose. Yes, they do lose stuff if they lose this game. I mean, I guess specifically the game, but
yeah, they have a loss on their record now.
Right. Which, nobody would like that other than the 72 Dolphins. But this is a great game for the Dolphins. They don't have a lot on the line. They're playing with house money. And we're going to start with the first topic because when we watch, I don't know, did you watch the Lions and Patriots on Monday night?
I did. I watched some of it.
The one thing I really noticed, and especially on the defensive side of the ball for the Patriots, was they were slow, they lacked playmaking, and they lacked speed. And what's going to happen this week is they're getting back both Trey Flowers and Patrick Chung, who are basically their playmaking guys. I know they're not the most scary names, but Flowers is arguably the most impressive guy on that defense, the biggest playmaker, the only guy we could argue on that line who's going to, get to the quarterback. So with these two guys back, Dolphin fans, should be a little nervous, especially when you get that air horn going on third down that, this guy can get to the quarterback. And it's going to be interesting to see how these guys kind of come into the fold. The Dolphins don't really have a lot of issues on the offensive side. So when we look at that matchup, the Patriots offense versus the Dolphins record scratch, when we look at the Patriots defense against the Dolphins offense, what do you see as like a big matchup?
It's got to be pass rush.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Dolphins have the receivers to kind of combat the corners. Like the Patriots have Stephon Gilmore on the outside, and this is the point where I'm not really worried about the receivers, but it just comes down to the defensive line. Can they put pressure on Tannehill? And it's going back watching like the Tennessee game, watching the Jet game. All those games were great, but to me, it comes down to this game right here.
Right.
If you're good, you'll make this competitive. If they lose, it's fine if they lose. Just don't embarrass yourself. Don't be that team that's 3-0 and gets completely mollywopped in New England. Where, because if they win, it's huge, right? We can agree it's huge.
Yeah, 3.5 game lead in the division with a 16-game season.
It's huge.
Yeah, that's a quarter of the season.
So I think it comes down to, can the Dolphins just protect Tannehill?
Mm-hmm.
And can Tannehill hit the guys? Like, we can't have these slow starts where they come out with 3 and outs the first 2 drives. Because you know how New England is. Right out of the gate, they'll come out and score 2 drives in a row, and it's 14-0 with Jacoby Brissett at quarterback.
Right, exactly. What we saw last year was Kenny and Drake have a huge game, and the Patriots' defense isn't that much different this year in the sense of they don't have the players to stop the run. And so when you see, hopefully this game, we have Kenny and Drake and Frank Gore doing a little more on the ground. I know the Raiders did everything in their power to put the game in Tannehill's hands. So this is going to be a little different. And I saw a stat that's pretty interesting, and it kind of goes against what the Dolphins are doing, and it kind of goes against what we hate with first and second and 10 runs, where the best offenses in the leagues are averaging about 8 yards when they get going on first down. So that's usually a pass. First down could be a huge passing down for the Dolphins. I'd rather give a Kenyon Drake a second and one run where he could try to break
Yeah.
something off instead of last week we had a first and 20 Kenyon Drake run, then a second and 17 Kenyon Drake run. So we are stuck in a third and 17 in New England. That stadium's gonna be packed. The Patriots have been in this position before. Everyone mentions that. We're on to Cincinnati week, and it's going to be like that. It's going to be the Patriots are going to do everything in their power to stop the run. The Dolphins match up really well, and that's
For
kind of what
once.
scares me. Yeah, exactly, and that's
Running back. We saw the Monday night game last year.
Mhm.
Like we saw what's different about this Dolphins offense besides having Tannehill in. Gesicki, we haven't seen much of Gesicki.
Mhm.
Outside of that, the offense is pretty much the same.
Exactly.
And so they have the game plan. They have the blueprint. It just comes down to it has New England figured out what they want to do. And I don't put anything past New England.
Exactly.
Like they're like White Walkers to me. If you watch Game of Thrones.
Nice. I don't, but I definitely get the reference. And kind of like how we mentioned last week where we would have felt more comfortable playing like a 1-1 Raiders team instead of like an 0-2 because like the Patriots, yeah. The Patriots at 1-2 right now, they have their backs up against the wall. So they're going to be, pulling out all the tricks to kind of find a rhythm after being embarrassed on Monday night. So when we look on the other side of the ball, one of the things I really noticed last week against the Raiders, it wasn't necessarily Jordy Nelson's first drive where he was wide open in the middle field for 60 yards and then wide open in the end zone for a touchdown. But it was when the Dolphins would blitz. Derek Carr would look right at Jordy Nelson and he'd run a slant or something to the inside and Bobby McCain just couldn't do anything about it. He just lacked the size and that's nothing against Bobby. He played well. It's just like a matchup problem. So when I see someone like Rashad Jones coming back this week, hopefully, well, before we get into him, Topher, don't you think, if Rashad's practicing in full and he's still questionable, isn't that just kind of the Dolphins not showing their hand to the Patriots?
Yeah, it's just definitely mind games. That's all it is.
And
If he wasn't practicing, he's not playing.
right.
But if he's limited in it, he's probably going to play. And it comes down to tomorrow, correct? Like they fly out to tomorrow. No, they fly out Saturday, if I'm not mistaken.
I think
So
you're right, yeah.
if they fly, if he practices tomorrow, that's what matters.
We could look like idiots at the end of the week when we scroll through Twitter, we see the injury report and Rashad's inactive. But I think Rashad's going to help so much with, yes, the communication breakdowns early in the game that led to, the Jordy Nelson touchdown drive, but also on the plays, like I mentioned, where the Tom Brady might recognize the blitz, and he might try to do something quick over the middle. The Patriots don't necessarily have the fastest guys. They have Phillips Dorsett and Chris Hogan on the outside, which isn't Julian Edelman, which isn't Danny Amendola. So if he tries to do like a quick slant over the middle or something like that, with Rashad back in the lineup, that gives people like TJ McDonald and even Rashad a chance to come, cut that route. And that's a pick six. We saw McDonald, I believe, has dropped 2 interceptions so far this year. One of them could have been a pick six. I think the Dolphins, McTyer and McDonald both dropped picks last week, where I think Rashad will do a good job of putting the players in the right position, which is really might be more important than his on the field play. Or the other thing that could happen is we're seeing, I don't know if you read the Armando article, but the Dolphins are looking to have Cam Wake and Robert Quinn on the field for about 70% of the snaps. The one thing the Dolphins have lacked without Sue is someone who just puts their hands in the air and can bat down balls. I mean, Jordan Phillips should be that guy, and I think Jordan Phillips is going to have a really big game because if the Dolphins pass rush, especially Cam Wake and Robert Quinn, they're their 2 big guys. And no one is better than Brady about moving his feet in the pocket. So it's going to be up to someone like Phillips, maybe a Vincent Taylor, to either get their hands up or apply that pressure right in the middle into Brady's face. Otherwise, he's going to have some time. And it doesn't matter how good, Xavier Howard is. Brady will find a mismatch. They'll find a hole in the zone to kind of, pick apart the defense.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen it that the way to beat Brady is just to get in his face.
Exactly.
Ever since he's been playing, ever since he's been going against the Dolphins, whenever they beat him, it's when they get physical with him. They make him uncomfortable. We see it every year. It's a home game. We always see it at the home games. We never see it in New England, which is the most aggravating thing. Is it's like there's two different teams that play the Patriots when it's Miami.
Right. And you kind of notice, like, some people might discount a lot of the time home field advantage, but Vegas isn't kidding when, it's an instantly 3-point in favor of the whole home team just because they're at home. It plays such a huge role. So when we look at that Patriot offense, if Josh Gordon plays, that's one thing, but even then, I'm not fully sold that he's instantly going to be the guy he was 5 years ago. But Rex Burkhead, done for the year, and Sony Michel is averaging 3.3 yards a carry. And there was a point in the time during the Monday night game. I don't know if you were watching at this point, but they threw it to hit him on like a screen pass, then a swing pass. 2 plays in a row and dropped both. So what Michel is still has like the rookie happy feet. I think they're going to be able to make the Patriots really one-dimensional, which against most teams, you think to yourself, yeah, that's what we want. We want to be able to pin our ears back. But we all know, we've seen it for years, Tom Brady is a different animal. So you got to have that pressure up the middle. And I saw an interesting stat where last week, can you guess which member of the defensive line had the most pressures?
Charles Harris.
Nope. Jordan Phillips. And that's why I think he's going to be the guy to watch in this game. He's that, I don't want to use the saying, but baby Sue, where he can apply that pressure up the middle. And that's where Brady starts to struggle, where he can't, he can't bounce out of the pocket. He's 41 years old. You can kind of negate the Wake and Quinn if you step up, fast enough. But if Phillips can get into his face, and if they can, let me kind of back up for a second, because if they can stop Michel, a couple drives in a row, and then you can kind of get in Brady's face, and then it kind of opens up the field for Jordan to have a huge game. I'd hope.
I just want to know, who is the guy that New England's going to pick on, if they can. Who are they going to pick on? Who's that? Who is it going to be? Is it going to be Raekwon McMillan?
Mm-hmm.
Is it going to be Bobby McCain? Like we drafted Minka and we gave him Gronk Stopper nickname. We would love to see him guard Gronk occasionally. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think you're right. I think he is going to stop Gronk, hopefully a little bit, and that would be pretty great to have happen. But when we look at that offense, we kind of look for those matchups, and the one that really is concerning to me is James White on either McMillan or Alonzo, especially if
that's it for me. That's it for me. When Rex Burkhead was out, I was like, okay, this is good. And now it comes down to James White, because we've seen it where like Raekwon kind of looks lost at times, and especially in coverage. Do they take him out and put Jerome Baker in and just have him strictly cover the running back? What's New England going to do that's going to like pick on Miami's weakness? Is it, like you said, it could be Raekwon or Kiko.
So when we look at the Patriots, they lack explosion on both sides of the ball. I think that's the one thing we made really clear here. But before the show, you brought up an interesting point about an article you found recently.
Yeah, it basically said that Bill Belichick's weakness is 2 running back sets, because they have to account now for 2 playmakers in the backfield, which kind of like, when I saw that, I thought, wow, the Dolphins have Kenyon Drake. You want to put in Albert Wilson in that category? I
think we could, yeah, absolutely.
Albert Wilson. You got, Frank Gore, obviously, Kenyon Drake, Albert Wilson, maybe even Jakeem Grant. And so we've seen now where they're not afraid to put their skill guys coming out of the backfield. And they've set it up now, or they're now able to set it up where if Wilson or Grant are coming in motion on a jet sweep, they can now actually probably fake it and run a different play with it to kind of confuse New England. Like they could fake the handoff to Grant and come out with a quick slant or like a swing pass to Kenyon Drake. Like who knows the creativity that Gaze has, but it's something worth to look at.
Absolutely, because when you look at like their defense, especially like Hightower, they're not really sideline to sideline guys as much as they are downhill guys. So if you beat them once on one of those swing routes for maybe like 10, 15 yards, nothing crazy, but like a good gain, all of a sudden they're going to be overcommitting on everything. So you just do like a play action that into like a deep ball to Kenny Stills, and the Dolphins are going to be cooking. but it just seems like we said before the show too. Every time we think the Patriots are done, it just doesn't happen. But it's really hard to not like these matchups on like both sides of the ball. The Dolphins have a lot to offer. I think it's going to be a really fun game, and I wouldn't put it past the Dolphins to win this game, but we've just seen it
Yeah,
time
that's
and
what it comes out of PTSD. We've seen this before, where they come in hot and they kind of fall apart. Uh, but they can. I mean, they've shown the plays. They have the explosive plays. They can make plays on defense. They can make plays on offense. They have a quarterback who doesn't turn the ball over. They have a defense who gets turnovers. Their running backs, they don't really make that many turnovers on offense, right?
they've been actually really good. I mean, we saw the does it count as a butt fumble for Kilgore? Wouldn't that technically be a butt fumble?
Yeah, we'll throw that in there. But like where it's like obnoxious penalty, like
Right.
fumbles. Like they don't really have that. So they've taken care of the ball really well. But it's just a post traumatic stress, post traumatic disorder. We're sitting here thinking they're going to lose because it's New England, and what team goes in New England and wins? But they
Exactly.
can. KC did it last year, week 1.
Exactly. And the offense is a lot like, the KC's offense was. And like I think the best part about this matchup is when we look back to last year. I think it was last year, but there was a game when Belichick was mic'd up and he would say over and over, "Watch for Landry, watch for Landry." And that's kind of
He
what
knows.
yeah, and he knew that if you stop Landry, this offense can't really do much. Do two safeties deep and you stop Landry, and the offense is done. So that's why I think Kenny and Drake last year was able to have such a good game because he didn't game plan for him. He game planned for Drake, or excuse me, he game planned for Landry. He game planned for Stills, so that allowed Drake, to take advantage of that and be such a
Even Grant.
even Grant mossing Malcolm Butler, but Topher, you're dying here. So I'm
Yes.
thinking, you're our Cameron Wake. I want to give the young stud Charles Harris a try. So we're gonna let you go for the night. We're gonna let you go get a nappy poo after you sip some soup.
Do you want me to give yes? Do you want me to give you my prediction?
I absolutely do.
28-20 New England.
All right. But Topher, with that, at Cochran 108, fins up, buddy.
Yes, sir. Fins up.
And it's strange. Our Cameron Wake is sick, and so is our Charles Harris. Here's our buddy Houtz, who's also recovering from a cold. Houtz, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing great, but to be compared to Charles Harris, the dude that blocked me because I mentioned the Dolphin door, I think I said someone was going to put a fat head over that hole of Charles Harris in a few years, and he ended up blocking my ass. So I don't really like to be, called Charles Harris, but I'm here. I'm feeling a little ill, but Tofu sounded like straight death. So put Cameron Wake and Rice. He's done for this episode.
It's cool. We'll just do to Charles Harris what everyone does to him. Just block him and forget he's there.
Blocks him into oblivion.
Exactly. So what Topher and I were kind of talking about is how this matchup for the Dolphins, it kind of seems a little too good to be true. I know that, we mentioned Trey Flowers and Patrick Chung are coming back, who are kind of their playmakers, kind of their speed and the talent on that defense. But overall, the Dolphins look like they're just the faster, more creative team than the Patriots right now. What do you think? What is your gut telling you going into this game?
Yeah, I think you both hit on it. I mean, this is too good to be true. Dolphins are going in this game 3-0. You look at New England; they look like that old. I don't know. They look old and sorry, and you just kind of think, the Dolphins should go in there and just beat up on them with their youth and speed. And we all know that's not going to happen. We know no matter, if Miami comes out of this with a victory, we know it's going to be a bloodbath and it's going to be down to the last seconds. But it's just, in my opinion, too good to be true. You hope that the speed can knock New England on their ass, but I don't think it's going to happen. So it's too good to be true. Let's see how it plays out. But I agree. I think the Dolphins look on paper like a much more faster team. We saw it throughout the first 3 weeks. They look like the faster team, but we know on Sunday that's not going to be the case, and the Dolphins are going to do what they always do and probably let us down.
I think the big thing, like we mentioned, is it comes down to, I think, Sonny Michel, because Brady's going to be Brady and he's going to do Brady things. But if they can continue to, stop Michelle, keep him around his 3.3 yards per carry. I don't know. Did you watch the Lions-Pats game on Monday night?
I did, and you touched on it there. I mean, they just seemed like they couldn't get things going, and Sony Michel, as much as they targeted him, he really didn't get things going in the passing game or the run game. But I don't know how you felt about Sony Michel. I know I was pretty high on him and kind of targeted him in a lot of fantasy drafts. So
Same.
what we saw those first 2 weeks, I'm not quite sure if that's the Sony Michel that the Dolphins are going to see on Sunday.
Right, and it seems like that happens with a lot of Patriot players. It takes a couple weeks for them to find their groove, and that's why I'm not really sold on Josh Gordon, because I remember listening to an interview with Carson Palmer, and he was asked why Chad Johnson didn't work in New England, and it's just such a different play style, where in Cincinnati, they were so focused on winning your route, being the best, most talented player, and Chad Johnson was that, so he could just beat a cornerback, where in New England, their passing scheme's more about beating a zone, finding a hole. And I wonder if Josh Gordon can do that instead of just, taking the top off of a defense. I think that's why they got rid of Cooks, because he could do that. He could take the top off a defense. Well, unless he's covered by Xavier Howard. But
True.
I wonder if Gordon can be that guy who can find a hole in the zone, and even if he plays, that I don't think he's going to be too big of a concern.
Yeah, Josh Gordon, I mean, this is a guy who has all the talent in the world, and he's a guy who, you keep hearing he's one of the top receivers in the NFL when he plays. That's the trick there. I mean, that's the key to it, when he plays. And whether or not he goes on Sunday, I really haven't been around much, so I'm not sure if, he's set to go. But Xavier Howard, he took out Brandon Cooks. That's a guy that two of the better football minds in football gave up first-round picks for. So Xavier Howard completely erased him. I don't know that Josh Gordon will be able to do anything more than Cooks did last year, but I agree. It's a different kind of passing scheme. Gordon can take the top off of defense, but can he settle into them zones? I don't think he can, and I'm not sure how big of an issue he'll be on Sunday.
So when we look at the quotes coming out this week, a lot of people got upset when Howard was talking about how he's going to shadow Cooper, and everyone's like, no, why are you giving away the scheme, the game plan? And this week, I forgot who wrote the article, but people are coming out and saying the Dolphins have even more trick plays ready for New England this week. And the last time we think about trick plays in New England was 10 years ago in the Wildcat. And now I wonder if there might be some trick plays, maybe nothing like an Albert Wilson to Jakeem Grant, pass and catch, or if this is just kind of trying to get into New England's head a little bit. Obviously, they're going to be creative. I'm not saying they have like a bland game plan or anything, but I wonder if, maybe that all these plays are out there. We think about week 1, Wilson was lined up in the Wildcat, but they called a timeout just to kind of make sure the Pats are more focused on stopping all these creative and jivey plays instead of the Kenyon Drake swing passes, or a Devontae Parker averaging 16 yards a catch or something like that. What would you think that kind of saying something like that would mean on both sides of the Dolphins and the Patriots?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I mean, we saw him kind of lay it all on the line last week with that Albert Wilson touchdown pass to Jakeem Grant. I mean, that was beautiful. I don't know about you, but I was just losing my freaking mind. But
yep.
you do wonder if that kind of came out there. I mean, yeah, they had to do it to win that game, but do you think they threw it out there because now Bill Belichick got to think about that. They got to remember, like you said, Wilson in the Wildcat, which you can't tell me that doesn't haunt Belichick to this day. And then we saw, I think, Albert Wilson, he was running a little bit of an option there. I don't remember if it was week 1 or 2, but the Dolphins looked like they were running almost a triple option. So those things are out there. I do think the Dolphins are going to come out here and lay it all on the line, but do I think they're going to come out and run like a Wildcat just down their throat? It's going to be like 2008. I don't see that. I think you said it best. That's going to be something that they're kind of leaving out there, so New England has to game plan for. I'm sure we'll see it a little bit. I'm hoping to see Albert Wilson, Jakeem Grant coming around in the Wildcat and him throwing a touchdown to Ryan Tannehill, who I don't think many people know, but he did play wide receiver a little bit there in college. So it'd be nice to see Ryan Tannehill catch a touchdown pass, see his Madden rating go up a little bit, past Nick Foles and Tom Brady, who can't catch football to save his life. But I don't think that's how this game is going to be won or lost. I do think we'll see a little bit of it, but it's not going to be what defines this game.
Yeah, and it's so different when you try this stuff in New England compared to Miami. And when we talked, Topher and I, in the beginning of the week, Frank Gore, he had a big role on that pass, the nice toss. Tannehill had a block. So many things have to go right, but it only takes one thing going wrong, especially in New England, to lose all that momentum. So it's a little more risky, especially when they get that air horn going on third down. So when we look at trick plays, the one thing someone pointed out on Twitter today, I didn't really catch who it was, but Albert Wilson's been the last line of defense in front of the punter in special teams. Do you think that could possibly be, his opportunity, that people have to be worried that is he going to run it out of this formation? Is he going to pass it out of this formation?
Yeah, I can't remember who it was either, but they definitely showed a picture of it, and they said they were a little bit hesitant to post that because they thought maybe New England would, catch on to it. But I think it's definitely something to keep an eye on. I didn't realize that. I don't know why Albert Wilson would be there other than to, at some point this is going to come out. They could come out in 4th and 2, 4th and 1 in a manageable situation, and next thing you know, Albert Wilson's lining up behind center, and they're just spreading the Patriots out, and no one knows what's going on. So, whether or not we'll see it against New England, I'm not sure, but I definitely think it's something to keep an eye on as the season goes on.
Man, just like as a little side note here, isn't this so much more exciting wondering like the potential of this offense? And we don't even know how they're going to use all these playmakers, and I'm sure Gase does. I'm sure Belichick is kind of staying up all night wondering what we can do, because that's kind of what the issue was last year. You wanted to stop Landry, and all of a sudden here's this young guy, Kenyon Drake, running all over you. So, and then the Patriots have to go and play. They're staying at home, but against the Colts on Thursday. And we could argue that this is such a big game for the Patriots, they won't overlook it. But when we look at the Vikings last week, they lost to the Bills. They have to play on Thursday night. The Jets had their best game before having to worry about a Thursday night because they played the Dolphins, and then the Browns on Thursday night ended up losing to Baker Mayfield. So I'm not necessarily saying it's something or like going to be an issue, but do you think there's any chance the Patriots, they just have a lot on their plate and might miss something in the game plan?
I sure hope so. I mean, it's something that New England, they have a chance if they lose this weekend to be, 3 games behind the Dolphins, 4 games into the year. I mean, that's something that I don't think even when Tom Brady got hurt and Matt Castle came in, I don't think that's something that even happened in 2008. So I definitely think, some of that outside hype's getting to them, and they kind of realize that, this isn't the same Patriots team that just goes out there and dominates. You can see the frustration on Tom Brady's face. The defense isn't quite doing the same thing they normally do. For me, though, I mean, we got to give our hats off to Adam Gase. This is a guy who we keep hearing he's an offensive mastermind. He was brought in, we were supposed to have this high-octane offense, and for 3 years we kind of saw it like, yeah, it was pretty good, but it wasn't quite what it is this year. Now you got guys like Jakeem Grant, who's coming in for 9 snaps a game. Albert Wilson, who they signed, and people are like, what the hell did we sign this guy for? I mean, he came in, no one's even thinking about Jarvis Landry. Albert Wilson's throwing touchdown passes. He's running shovel passes, which, I mean, that to me is a handoff. I don't know why Tannehill got that in his statistics. I mean, good if you have Tannehill in fantasy. But you see Albert Wilson doing that with 10 snaps. So you got these guys, it just seems like they have playmakers all over the field. You mentioned Kenyon Drake. They brought in Frank Gore. I mean, this offense is finally starting to click. Adam Gase brought in his guys. I'm excited to see what they can do. But I do think that this is a game that New England, I mean, if they don't go out there and they don't play their best football, the Dolphins have a chance to beat them, and they will be down 3 games in the division, and it's going to be hard for them to battle back, no matter who it is, even the Patriots.
You brought up an interesting point that Topher and I talked about a little bit earlier in the week, where Grant only played 10 snaps and Wilson only played 9, and a lot of the fan base was up in arms about that. Do you see that as kind of an issue?
I just think it's a thing where you got all these mouths to feed. You got all these good players. I mean, you're not taking Kenny Stills off the field. You brought in Dan Amendola to be a locker room veteran, a guy who can go there and play the slot better than most people in the NFL. And then you bring in Devontae Parker, who can do more than – I mean, yes, Kenny Stills is a deep threat. We've seen Jakeem Grant be a deep threat, but Devontae Parker, that size, you just cannot take him off the field. So I think it's a good problem to have. I saw some people who wanted to bring Rashard Matthews back. As much as I like him, if you can't find snaps for Jakeem Grant and Albert Wilson, what are you going to do with Rashard Matthews? So I think it's a good problem to have. I think the Dolphins have a lot of weapons on paper heading into this year. I mean, we lost Landry. People were like, oh, this offense, they don't really have those names. It doesn't matter about the names as you're seeing 3 weeks into the year, because this is what they're scoring 25 points. They're 11th in the NFL. They're putting up the yards. They're putting up the game on the ground. I mean, they're doing it all, and it's not, those big names, those big flashy names heading in the year, because no one gave them credit. This was the bottom 5 team according to most national media members, and now people are just all over them. So I see it as a good problem to have, because as the season progresses, these guys will eventually get more snaps, and when they do, good things are going to come.
No doubt. I kind of like it because you mentioned Stills can't come off the field because in any situation, no matter what the play is, there's the opportunity if there's one safety deep that Stills is going to be wide open. You can't take Parker off the field because if everyone's covered and you just got to make a play and have a receiver win 1v1. Yes, we saw Jakeem Grant, Moss, Malcolm Butler last year, but Devontae Parker gives you that opportunity on each and every play to, beat a defender. So when you have guys like Wilson and Grant, yes, maybe they should play a couple more, but I don't think not too many because when they're on the field, they're there to give defenses headaches. And say maybe they get stopped on a play or something. And, Tannehill has to find his second read or something. Maybe they see it coming. Wilson and Grant, I don't want to say one-trick ponies, but they don't have the same mid-play opportunities, I guess it would be a good way to put it, where, Parker and Stills can, make up for a broken play or something like that. And it'd be great to see, Wilson and Grant do this every play, but that's not why they're there. They're there to be, techie guys. I think it would be lined up in certain situations and certain points to give defenses headaches. Before we get your prediction, I just want to have you give me 2 or 3 guys.
All right, this might be the optimist in me. You kind of saw him get it together a little bit last week. I would think Mike Gesicki with A.J. Darby out. I think this might be his coming out game. Again, this might be the optimist in me. I like his game. I think the Dolphins haven't really shown much from Gesicki. I think we mentioned all these guys on the outside, but we haven't mentioned Mike Gesicki. So hopefully he's being underlooked by the Patriots, and maybe he's going to come out and have his breakout game. On defense for me, I'm going to go with you got to go with Xavier Howard. He's playing lights out. He's a top 5 defensive back right now. I'm not really sure he's going to go out there and shut down. Maybe Josh Gordon if he plays, but other than that, Xavier Howard should completely wipe out any of their receivers. So maybe Minka. Is Minka going to be the Gronk stopper this week? I don't know.
Hell yeah.
I haven't really been seeing what the media's saying. I haven't really heard about the matchup. So if Minka's lined up there with Rob Gronkowski or Rashad Jones or Gronkowski, that's kind of the matchup I'm looking at. But as far as who's going to go out there and be the difference maker, I think it's going to be Xavier Howard. I think he's going to do what he's been doing and keep getting those interceptions and at costly moments that turn this game in the Dolphins' favor.
It seems like it's going to be all year. We're going to keep asking ourselves why our quarterback's throwing against this guy because the ball skills. We think back to that Sean Smith one-handed interception in the end zone, which we thought he was going to be the guy for years, him and Vontae Davis. But when we see Howard making these picks in the end zone, he's not dropping the gimme interceptions. He's taking advantage. It's incredibly exciting to watch. So with that, Houtz, give me your final score prediction.
Yeah, my heart wants to go with the Dolphins. My gut says the Patriots are going to end up winning this, but I'm going to go against the grain. I'm going to think, we're all fans here. We think the Dolphins are going to win. Whether or not it happens, I don't know, but I'm going to go 23-21 Dolphins. They're going to pull this out, take a 3-game lead on the New England Patriots. And, the rest of the season, it's going to be fun to watch if the Dolphins go 4-0, especially after beating New England.
Oh, my God. Everyone would blow up. And for that reason, I'm going to say a 28-14. I just don't think the Patriots are going to be able to move the ball. I think having guys like Godshaw, Taylor in the middle, stopping Sony Michel is going to be so huge because they're going to need someone to make a play. Tom Brady's going to make plays, yes, but once he has the ball in someone's hands, they're going to need to make a play. And I don't see Chris Hogan doing that against Xavier Howard. I don't see Philip Dorsett doing that, even if, he's bigger than Bob McCain. Maybe Gronk, but I'm ready to ride and die with the Gronk stopper. There's still an undefeated Fitzmagic in the league, and it is Minka Fitzpatrick. And with that, Houtz, thank you so much. I know you're a little sick. At Houtz on Twitter. I'm at JMendel94. You can find us on Spotify, iTunes, Podbean, anywhere you want to listen to us. We'll be there just to comfort you because the Dolphins are 3-0, baby. I'm riled up. I know you're sick, but I'm sure you're just as excited for this game as I am. Fins up, buddy.
Fins up, man. I just want to ask. I was thinking about this. This is the in the hunt. The Dolphins are they in the hunted? Are they the hunted? What are we right now? Because the Dolphins are the team to beat. So I didn't know if maybe we went from being in the hunt to the hunted.
Wow, this is Because when you're in the hunt, you're not hunting the people who already won the. So we're top of the food chain. I think that's
we're at the top of the totem pole. So I didn't know if I thought about this a little bit ago, a couple of days ago. I was thinking, is it in the hunt or are we now the hunted? I don't know what you guys view yourself as, but as of now, the Dolphins are the hunted.
We're gonna take credit that we broke the curse as of right now until it all comes crumbling down.
Absolutely.
But on that, have a good night, Houtz. It was a lot of fun talking to you.
Yep, thanks for having me, as always. Look forward to doing it again.